South Florida is where the 76ers have touched down for their final road game of the regular season. Tyrese Maxey in the jumpsuit. Yes, that is the look of a man who is prepared for the trip. Same goes for Seth Curry and the pastel-colored purple jumpsuit pants. We're going to have to get an answer about the monitor before the season's out. Yes, Ben Simmons, palm tree shorts and all. The colors fit the 76ers quite nice for the site. A stop at American Airlines Arena tonight for the 76ers. Intriguing matchup it could be between the Sixers and the Miami Heat as this two-game road trip comes to an end and the 76ers look to bounce back. How you doing? I'm Brian Seltzer. Lauren Rosen, great to see you. Welcome everyone into 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. Final regular season road game for the Sixers against the team they might see in a few weeks to a month, perhaps, Lauren.
Yeah, a very big deal to wind up at the end of the regular season, thus far, at least with the best away record in the Eastern Conference, an area that this team really wanted to emphasize improving in and certainly has been able to do that. And tonight looking to bounce back after falling to the Pacers on Tuesday, make it a 1-1 series and have them win, I suppose, 9 of their last 10 at that point.
No doubt about it. The 76ers trying to get back on track after a tough second half in Indy on Tuesday. The other big story surrounding the 76ers going into tonight's game, Joel Embiid was not with the team against the Pacers on Tuesday in Indianapolis. He is with the team tonight. Whether or not he plays, we are not sure. But within the last hour and a half, this is footage of the big fella emerging from the 76ers team hotel. We shall see if he is able to give it a go. He is able to give our great cameraman, Nick McCain, a dap on his way to the bus. But non-COVID illness for Joel Embiid did not play on Tuesday. But tonight, the Heat, they're going to let Jimmy Butler be a game-time decision. So some star power on the Heat side, a little bit up in the air. But we do know Miami has Bam Adebayo. And it would be cool, I think, Lauren, if Joel were able to play tonight, continue to rack up his MVP case, and also take on one of the other young, bright big men in the NBA.
Yeah, two of the young stars when it comes to, I guess, the NBA in general, but certainly when it comes to big men. Joel probably a pretty safe bet for those all-NBA teams, but Bam putting together an all-NBA case as well. Would be cool to see the two of them come up against each other. We talked about Joel, who remains questionable. We also learned prior to our stream that Furkan Korkmaz and Shake Milton, who both missed the game against the Pacers, have been seemingly upgraded to probable based on what Rivers had to say. T-style remains a little bit more questionable with that left hand swelling. So in any case, it does seem the Sixers will have a little bit more manpower than they were able to have on Tuesday.
76ers enter tonight's matchup with the top spot in the Eastern Conference. Their magic number remains 1. They're 47-22. They had an opportunity, even with the loss, 103-94 on Tuesday, to still secure the 1 seed that night. But Brooklyn did win in Chicago, so the 76ers, because of that, were not able to wrap up the 1 seed. As for the Miami Heat, they're in a really intriguing spot, Lauren. They could wrap up the season anywhere from 4th to 6th in the Eastern Conference right now. Probably not going to go on a slide, and now not enough games left for them to fall out of the top 6. But Miami clinched a playoff spot with a win over Boston on Tuesday night. But they're now jockeying for positioning with Atlanta, who right now is ahead of Miami by half game for 4th place, and also the New York Knicks, which are in a tie with Miami record-wise for 5th, but Miami holds the tiebreaker by virtue of having beaten New York in all games they've played against each other this season. So right now, Miami is in the 5th slot in the Eastern Conference race. This is fun, tracking all this stuff as the season winds down.
It's an interesting landscape, to be sure. A lot of the credit should go to the play-in tournament that's going to be new this season, but really cool to be in the final days of the regular season and have so many teams still jockeying for positioning. Of course, both teams going up against each other tonight with something at stake when it comes to positioning in the playoffs. So really cool to be this deep into the season and still seeing so much parity and so much competition going on out there.
Even with the loss to the Pacers on Tuesday, I think it's worth highlighting, Lauren, as you talked about the fact that the 76ers really have had great success, relatively speaking, not just compared to last year, but a lot of years before this in terms of road performance. They're 20 and 15 on the road entering tonight. That's currently the best in the Eastern Conference, as you said, Lauren. Sixers going for the best road winning percentage since winning over 60% of their road games back in 2000, 2001. So I think that conventional wisdom says if you go 500 on the road in an NBA season, that's pretty good. You're in a really good spot, provided that you're better than 500 at home. And that should be good enough to get you into the playoffs. The 76ers, regardless of what happens tonight, they're going to have a winning record on the road. And there's something to be said for that. They are good anywhere.
Yeah, I think if you had told this group that at the start of the season, this is where they would end in terms of the road and in terms of the Eastern Conference, they'd say that they accomplished two of their main goals in this regular season already. So, really exciting to see that the hard work this team has put in since they left the bubble last season has really paid off.
For the Sixers, it seemed like after the first quarter on Tuesday night against the Pacers at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, things were going really well. And then in the final moments of the second quarter, it seemed like the Pacers started to get a little bit of momentum. Nice seeing Tyrese Maxey out there. That was in a sequence where he scored on back-to-back plays. But yeah, the Pacers started to get a little momentum down the stretch of the first half. And then in the third quarter, they really started to get going. The Sixers were outscored by 20 in the second half. And they also allowed a game ending 15-2 run to the Pacers. Tough to win when things like that are happening.
And in fairness, tough to win when you're missing four of the guys that play heavily in your rotation. Of course, Joel Embiid, the only starter that was missing, but Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, Matisse Thybulle, frequently the first three, if not three of the first four, three of the first five off the bench. So they were missing a lot of guys. Isaiah Joe in the first quarter, Anthony Tolliver in the first quarter, not necessarily what this team is used to. So it was cool to see them start really well despite the atypical rotation. But then, yeah, Celts lost a little bit of gas there in the second half, and hopefully we'll learn from those mistakes tonight in Miami.
Ben Simmons with his first 20-point performance in 20 games. He hit that number on the nose, 9 for 16 from the field. He also had 7 assists, 8 rebounds. Did play through a little bit of foul trouble, 5 personals and 5 turnovers. I did think that turnaround jump shot at the foul line late to put the Sixers up by 4 was pretty nice.
It seemed like maybe that was going to be what capped it. Good to see Ben being aggressive down the stretch. One of his better performances lately. But of course, even when the stats don't sing the way that they did on Tuesday, Ben has been so important to this team. Worth noting that in Indiana, that was the first time the team had lost since his return to the court. So he's been massive for this team, and really cool to see him rounding into such strong form at a very strategic time indeed.
Tobias Harris led all players with 27 points in the game. He shared his thoughts on what did not go the Sixers' way afterwards on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, for us to start the third quarter and in the fourth quarter were really defining moments of the game. I thought, shots weren't falling for us, but we didn't execute the way we wanted to in the start of the third quarter. Mainly due to the fact that we were forced to take the ball out every single time. We couldn't really get in transition because our defense was, non-existent out there. So that makes the game even harder. And then in the fourth quarter, we just didn't get the shots to fall for us, really.
Pacers did a really nice job on the glass, out rebounding the Sixers by 10, but really the 3-point shooting, as Tobias alluded to, wasn't there for the Sixers. They were 8 for 26, under 31% for the game on Tuesday night. Pacers didn't shoot a great percentage, just 34, but they got up 15 more threes and ended up knocking down 6 more threes than the Sixers. So that was, I don't want to say the only difference, but that was a pretty big difference right there.
Well, certainly a difference maker, and props, of course, to Tobias for being so willing to admit that that's where the difference was. I appreciate Tobias's realness, his willingness to admit where the team could be doing better. You're always going to get an authentic reaction from him, and he wasn't happy with the way that the team closed it down on Tuesday. So, vengeful rather, Tobias Harris is always a dangerous piece for this team, and hopefully he brings that fire with him tonight in Miami.
Joel Embiid, if he doesn't play, is always going to be the most noteworthy absence for the 76ers. But as you talked about, Lauren, at the top of the show, there are other key guys missing from the rotation as well. The defensive stopper and Matisse Thybulle nursing that hand injury. Furkan Korkmaz, who's been in and out of the lineup over the last couple of weeks. Seems like maybe Furkan could return tonight. Shake Milton was a late scratch. He could be back tonight. So you take Furkan Korkmaz and his 3-point shooting, and Shake Milton and his ability to create, penetrate, get inside away from the offense, I think the Sixers offense could have done better on Tuesday night with the guys who they had, but also you have to acknowledge the fact that the offense was going to be handicapped because it was missing three important pieces.
And you mentioned that run that Indiana had in the fourth quarter. A defensive stopper like Matisse Thybulle could have been really useful in that situation. So I do think it's worth giving a little bit of attention to those three that were missing from the bench because they've been such a strong and consistent part of the bench all season. You mentioned Furkan Korkmaz, for those asking in the comments. Not officially back in the lineup today, but Doc Rivers seemed to think they're looking pretty good for prior to today's game or prior to today's stream when Rivers addressed the media. I got to catch up with Furkan this morning. Hey, Furk, great to see you. How is your body? How's that ankle feeling? How anxious are you to get back out on the floor?
Good. I feel really good. Can't wait to play today. We just have to shoot around, and then we are ready to play. I'm ready to play.
What are your goals for the last 3 games of the regular season as you fine-tune things before the playoffs?
Of course, we want to get the first seed first, and then I want to try to get in the shape again. This couple games, I think it's going to help all of us to get in the shape, staying ready for the playoffs because there's going to be a huge break for the playoffs. We need to stay in the shape, and I think that's going to be important games.
Lastly, looking at your own mental game, having had one of your best seasons, if not your best season consistently throughout the year, but then having to rehab these 2 injuries and get back and stay ready and get back quickly, how have you kept your mental game sort of in check and how are you staying in a positive mental space right now?
I know what I can do on the court. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to put a lot of pressure to myself because I know at the end of the day why I'm going into the court. I know my responsibilities. I just want to step out and play, help my team to get the win.
Thanks so much, Furkan. Furkan has really rounded into somewhat of a veteran for this team, someone who can be relied upon for that three-point shooting. He did a great job of coming back in a big way the first time he dealt with an ankle sprain a couple weeks ago. So hopefully Furkan will be able to do just the same if he returns tonight or in the coming games because Celti's been a huge piece for this team. And I know you and I have both enjoyed watching him grow over the last couple of years.
Gosh, they grow up so darn fast. This is the end of his 4th season in the NBA already. He's going to turn 24 later this summer. But yeah, he's had experience. He continues to grow and project on a positive line, I think. And right before he suffered his injury, he had a really good stretch. He scored in a season high 6 straight games in double figures. His three-point shooting percentage all season long, but really since the All-Star break has been terrific for the season. He's shooting right around 38.5% from three-point territory. So to get another little bit of a bomber back in the lineup, that would not be a bad thing. Hopefully Furk and the Korkestra will all be active, available, and doing their respective things in tonight's game. Another guy off the bench who's been really sharp as of late, Tyrese Maxey, and he is one of the people who we focused on with Jay Crafton, former assistant coach with the Delaware Bluecoats, now the head coach at University of Maryland Eastern Shore. It is time once again to go inside the matchup.
This is Jay Crafton, and it's time to go inside the matchup. Let's talk about Tyrese Maxey, the rookie guard out of Kentucky, is really coming on strong this season. He does a great job of getting downhill in pick and roll situations and putting pressure on the rim and showing the ability to finish in traffic. Another great thing that he's evolving at is on the right wing when he catches the ball, he's giving you a hard jab to the baseline, and then he's whipping it back to his left hand, coming to the middle of the floor, and finishing at the rim with an array of finishes and floaters. Another thing that he's starting to show a lot of improvement in is his defense. And that's coming from off the ball, being active as he's showing a crowd in gaps, getting his hands on balls and getting deflections, and being able to help the Sixers get out in transition. A couple of things to note with Tyrese Maxey. He's 7.7 points per game for the season, but in the last 3 games, he's 15 points per game, so he's almost doubled his scoring. This young guard is playing at the right place at the right time as the Sixers get ready for a big playoff run. Let's talk about Dwight Howard. He's had an amazing impact for the Sixers this season. He's giving you 7 points and 8 rebounds per game. He's got amazing dunks around the rim and relocate situations. He's all over the offensive glass, bringing great energy. And he's also stretching out the floor a little bit, making a mid-range shot, and he even made a big-time 3 the other night. His 19 points and 14 rebounds against Detroit placed him in the top 10 all-time in double-doubles. Tremendous job from Dwight Howard. His veteran leadership is going to be key as the Sixers approach the playoffs. I'm Jay Crafton, and you just went inside the matchup.
Jay Crafton always bringing the energy as well. Love to hear his insights and perspective. And yes, Dwight Howard, I think, Lauren, we hear on the podcast, whether it's Mailbag Monday or when we're talking with Devon Givens for the Friday deep dive, we hear a lot about who's been one of the more valuable pickups this year for the 76ers. And I think a lot of people, at least the fans, feel it could be Dwight Howard. Sixers, listen, this isn't everything, but they got him at a great, great rate. And he's been so productive. He's been the best backup Joel Embiid has had. And during the 8-game winning streak, he had 3 double-doubles. So he's really been playing well and still very fresh after a deep run last season with the Lakers.
Yeah, that is for sure, Seltz. It's been really cool to be a part of this almost second act of Dwight Howard's career. A first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, has really found a new way to be productive and to be an integral part of the teams he plays for. Really cool to see him be able to bring the same, if not bigger, energy to the Sixers team than he brought to the Lakers last season. Doc Rivers said that just prior to our stream. He wasn't exactly sure what Dwight was going to bring to the table or how good of a fit that was going to end up. Docker says he's thrilled with the way that Dwight has found a way to assimilate to his new team, and it's clear that his teammates think the same.
From day one, he came in, brought great vibes, set the tone with his work ethic, and I think that a lot of the 76ers personality, and we talk about this a lot, like, oh, teams, do they have chemistry and camaraderie? This one really does, and I think that Dwight Howard is a big reason why the 76ers have been able to generate that type of atmosphere. For the Sixers tonight, Miami, Florida at American Airlines Arena against the Heat. I'm pretty pumped for this one, Lauren. I hope everyone who could play will play. That will only add to it. Jimmy Butler, a question mark for the Miami Heat. Joel Embiid is going to be a game-time decision most likely for the 76ers. He is in Florida with the Sixers right now. He'll go through some pregame warm-ups. But the Heat got off to a bit of a slow start. They were rocked by health and safety protocols when last the Sixers saw them for a 2-game series at the center in January. 2 games the 76ers won. But Jimmy Butler's been back playing at an all-league level. Bam Adebayo, strong season. They have their shooters. They did acquire Victor Oladipo, who's unfortunately for him going to be out for the rest of the season, underwent surgery on his quadriceps earlier today. But Miami's a team that's risen through the ranks of the East, Lauren, and I think that given their coaching staff, their pedigree, and who else they've got on the roster, they could be a sneaky submission into the postseason race.
Yeah, certainly a team not to be slept on. It was interesting when they were sort of in that play-in tournament conversation. Of late, they've played their way out of the play-in tournament at this point, sitting with that 5 seed. But this is not a team, Celts, that you want to see in the first round of the playoffs. It's not a team that you want to see in the second round either. So they could be a really sneaky matchup, like you said, for whoever has to take them on in the first round. Luckily, doesn't seem like it's going to be the Sixers' responsibility, but yet another reason why that 1 seed in the Eastern Conference could be so special for the 76ers.
Looking back to the 2-game series at the center from earlier in the year, it was actually kind of competitive between the Sixers and the Miami Heat, despite the Sixers and the Heat going up against a situation where Miami did not have a ton of its top guys. But Miami is in such a precarious spot right now because they could finish as high as the 4 seed, which would mean home court advantage for the first round at least, or as low as the 6 seed. And if they're the 6 seed, that means they're looking at a possible 3-6 matchup in the first round if the team is high caliber as Milwaukee. Or they could be in a 4-5 scenario where maybe they host the Atlanta Hawks or the New York Knicks or something like that. So it's really, I think for Miami, I'll be curious, Lauren, to see what type of urgency the Heat come out with tonight and see how they perhaps view where they would like to end up being when the final seeding shakes out.
Well, so we talked about it at the beginning of our show, but the amount of parity that exists throughout this league right now in both conferences all over the place, really cool to see so many teams having something to fight for in these final days of the season. There are a lot of places that these teams could end up, and that's been very clear. So really cool to be as competitive as these teams are being down the stretch here, and I expect tonight to be no different.
Time now for us to review our Tissot Keys to the game as we check in on what time it is. Ah, yes, the NBA Chrono XL Special Edition says it thinks it's time.
As does my Tissot PR100 selves.
Lauren, as you poured over your notes and studiously studied tonight's clash between the 76ers and the Miami Heat, what did you ultimately settle upon for your Tissot key to the game?
Well, Celts, this is a team that hasn't had issues early in games lately. Really strong first halves, but in the few losses that the team has had, it usually does happen in the second half. So I said charge out of the break. I think a big third quarter is key for the 76ers tonight. If they can bring energy right out of the break, they're not going to have a ton of problems closing it out. But if they can't bring that energy out of the break, they're going to have problems. Seems simple, but in that loss in Indiana, they only scored 13 in the third quarter, 19 in the fourth quarter. Got to up that productivity if you want to beat a very good Miami Heat team tonight. I went way over the 24 seconds, but I feel very passionately about charging out of the break.
Yes, when you have a key that you feel passionately about, you keep going. I think that can be a rule. Listen, if you're on a roll, you're on a roll, because we wouldn't want to shortchange the great supporters of 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot by not giving them the full breadth of a key that we feel strongly about.
Well, I got all the way through the shot clock without citing any statistics, and that didn't feel good to me. I needed to let you guys know what the numbers were to support my point.
I mean, look at this. Look at this right here. It's moving.
Go,
I'm down
go.
to 10 seconds. My key is be ready to box out the Miami Heat more than any team in the NBA. They lead the league in box outs over 12 per game. So to me, what that says is, not surprisingly, given the guys who are on the Heat roster, this is a physical team. You've got Butler, you've got Bam, you've got Ariza. They have some vets. Listen, they have some veterans who play tough. So I think if the 76ers can match their physicality tonight, that will help the Sixers' cause. Just don't let Miami push you around and be the more physical team.
I'm with it, Celts. I am with it as usual. You always bring the keys.
I went over the time too. I don't know if that would have been 24. It's hard to say.
It's all right. We got it done.
Those are the Tissot Keys to the Game presented by Tissot. We thank them. We thank you. We thank Trevor Gaffney. Happy birthday, Trevor Gaffney. Is it too late? A day late, but we didn't have a game yesterday or a stream. So I think, why don't we give a little clap shout out for those of you out there who are regular viewers of our stream. Acknowledge Trevor Gaffney. He's one of our fine producer editors, does a great job, does anything and everything. And without his support and assistance, we would not be able to bring you 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot.
That is the truth, Celts. Thanks as always to Trev. Happy birthday. Thanks to Ryan Coletti. Always a pleasure to do this with you, Celts. The last one where we're both going to be at home in the regular season.
How about that? Craziness. Crazy that the end of the regular season road schedule is here. 76, of course, returning home for 2 against the Orlando Magic tomorrow and Sunday. If you hadn't seen yet, the Sunday game time has been announced. It's now 7 o'clock. The league released that news earlier today. But we'll be back at it tomorrow. Sixers and the Orlando Magic from the center. Lauren will be there, and we will check. Oh, yes, one more thing. We apologize. We cannot overlook telling you about this as well. Check it out if you have not seen it. ESPN does an outstanding job with a lot of things, but I really like what they do, Lauren, with these cover story features across multiple platforms, and they just did one featuring the gentleman on the cover, yellow jacket and all, Joel Embiid.
And it is one heck of a story. Some really interesting nuggets about Joel's background, his family life. So if you got some time prior to this one, make sure you take a read. Ramona Shelburne did an awesome job, as she always does.
I'm saying this endearingly, and it's probably going to be a bad joke. There's also an awesome picture with Joel and his son, Arthur, who at this point is probably around 9 months old. I'm not going to say it's a recreation of the TJ McConnell picture, but it's a very good, great Joel in your face holding someone he loves in a great moment type picture. So not quite the same thing as the iconic Joe TJ McConnell picture, but it's a good one. So check that out. There's a video feature to it. Some really cool stuff.
I agree with that, Celts. And as we go off the air, The breaking news, Joel Embiid, Furkan Korkmaz, Shake Milton all in tonight. Matisse Thybulle is out. So make sure you enjoy the game. The Sixers will have some more firepower than they did on Tuesday.